Talks with Teads. I'm Natalie Bastian, Teads Global CMO, and I'm joined today with Emmelijn from Hearst. Welcome.
Thank you. Great being here.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
So we've been meeting with global clients, both from around the world, talking about some of the key themes and trends that have happened in 2024 that we see that will continue for 2025. And as you know, coming from Hearst, one of the largest global publishing houses in the world, very curious on your point of view as far as any themes that you've seen in this last year that you see will continue into 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. So from a Hearst perspective, I mean, going into the content part, really important still, and is one of our pillars that we have in the house. We are, for the Dutch market specifically, not the biggest, but really big in niche. So we are quite a good, we have a good point of view when it comes to beauty, fashion, lifestyle, and we know what our readers want to read. The editorial teams know that flawlessly. They live and breathe the brand, and being able to bring that from inspiration to buying, so going into the affiliate, but also in terms of advertising, so showing good ads, matching within the context, matching into the needs of the audience, what you're looking for, is something that we're going to bring forward, of course, to 2025. So the customization in that sense. We are heavily investing in our DMP and CDP capacity, so building out that ad tech stack, so to speak, and of course logins. Logins and subscriptions are a big theme for us also in 2025. In the Dutch market, we have our first subscription online live with Quest, which is a popular science magazine, where readers, if they subscribe online or offline, they can read premium content, make premium puzzles, which is very popular as well. And we are also quite heavily investing in moving that forward for other titles within our portfolio as well.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously, the cookie deprecation and the future of that is unknown. But over the last 3-4 years, the industry has been moving to cookieless solutions because the assumption that the cookie was going away. And so, you know, from an advertising perspective, we see a lot of the brands that invest with us operate on contextual signals. Only nearly 80% of the campaigns that we run are on contextual signals. And so whether or not the cookie is going away for good, honestly, it doesn't really matter because we're seeing that context is truly king or queen in the sense of the importance. And obviously, an understanding the content of which the ad is served is really important, because I think from a consumer perspective, it's not like consumers don't like ads, they just don't like irrelevant ads. And so the importance to build that connection is so crucial. And it also, you know, helps from an authenticity standpoint too. And also first party data is the other part to your point of the need to build the subscription based model, but also just the login model to free content to essentially future proof as well.
Yeah, future proof and be relevant at the right time, at the right moment for that specific audience. I mean, it's highly important, like exactly like you said, being relevant. It's not about the ad intrusiveness. That can be if it's a really big ad, but it is being relevant at the right timing. And with our titles, I think since we are in this niche, so to speak, well, not really news driven, we do have the right content to do so. And we know what works and what doesn't work in that sense quite quickly.
How do you see, as we look into 2025 from an industry perspective, how do you see contextual targeting and the demand, the need to build contextual? How do you see that theme continue to grow?
I think it's still growing, but it's a bit staggering because of Google. In the sense, if they don't deprecate their cookie, it will still be marginal. And that's because we don't have to move.
The urgency.
The urgency is lacking in that sense. And if that change, I mean, you have to. Like we've seen it with GDPR. I remember like the day from yesterday, like GDPR came in May, and everybody was running around, didn't know how to handle it very well, because people thought, okay, it won't be that bad. And not that it will be the same with the cookie deprecation if it goes away completely, but because I think we've learned from that experience in the market. But unless there's no bigger urgency than it is right now, it will be evolving, but not as quick as I think it should be. Yeah. Because it's so more privacy-centric, and that's something that we really believe in within Hearst as well, thinking about the consumer and be privacy-centric in that sense. So I think for us, context is really important, and that's what we build our stack also quite well around. Already.
Yeah, it's very clear. Well. Our industry loves a good deadline, but if you move the deadline, the speed goes away. So, but I think too, just building the proof of concept or going beyond proof of concept that leveraging contextual signals actually works, and in some cases it could work better than a cookied signal. And I know that's something we're prioritizing. But outside of the data component and going back to the relevancy theme, how do you see, knowing that your properties, to your point, have more niche, whether it's beauty and fashion, bigger contextual moments, like moments in time. How does Hearst kind of capitalize on those moments, whether it's from an editorial standpoint or just from a branding and an advertising standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can speak for the Dutch market, of course. And what we've done over the last years, we've built out our content buckets across all titles, across 7 purpose topics, micro topics, like lifestyle, beauty, but also food and drinks, sports, tech, finance, and being able to capture with on the back end the data about the content and being able to capture that and serve across all brands for a specific advertiser is quite a unique proposition. So we're not tied to one title. You can leverage that across the whole network. And that has been quite an endeavor that we take on upon us, because you need to classify. How do you classify, let's say, a hairdryer? Is that tech or is that beauty? Yeah.
Or is it retail, depending on where you buy it?
Depending on where you put it. And so that's also quite a challenge. Yeah. And also I think for context overall, it's quite a challenge, because if you take it too broad, it won't leverage enough value, and if it's too narrow, you don't have the volume to target, and especially on classification of content.
Which makes sense, because then if like the shorter the scale makes it more niche, and then obviously that affects pricing as well.
But also effectiveness. In that sense.
True.
So is it adding value to be this precise?
Yeah, especially, again, going back to the product, if it's more broad reach that you're looking for. And I think part of it too is what does the advertiser want to accomplish as well? Because I think there's definitely a need to be hyper precise in this habit that we've built over time because of the perceived capabilities that we've built up with data. But sometimes it's more damaging to the KPI you're trying to reach if it's almost too precise, because you're missing out on an audience set that you may not realize is qualified or interested.
Exactly.
So it's definitely that balance.
You lower your skills so much that it doesn't add value at all anymore. And that's a fine balance, especially in a smaller market like the Dutch market. I mean, like a German or UK or US market, it's you can go far more niche without losing skill. But for the Dutch market, you're losing skill quite quickly, especially if you stay within one publisher network.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, crystal ball, final question. Going beyond 2025, where do you see, and maybe it starts in 2025 but needs time to progress, a theme emerging?
Specifically to Hearst, or just
more broadly?
More broadly.
Crystal ball, wherever you want to take this.
In the Dutch market, I mean, retail media is a big topic. That's really rising because they can tap in multiple budgets, and it's evolving quite quickly. Also within agencies, they building out their own teams. I think that's going to be quite a big topic for 2025. Another one will be CTV, of course. Also quite quickly evolving. Also in the Dutch market, players are really into it. Also from a tech perspective, because that's the most important part. And the last one, privacy. Privacy rulings, legislations will become more important over the years, and we need, as an industry, we need to be ready to be indeed fully prepared on being cookieless. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wicked.
Yeah, because it could be a matter of, I mean, working backwards so from the privacy standpoint, even in the U.S., where there's going to be state level rulings that essentially are modeled off of GDPR, because that's one of the highest standards. And so whether Google makes a decision or not, there needs to be that level of readiness where it's going to be essentially mandated. So that makes a lot of sense. And then to me, what's interesting, and one of the predictions whether I'm watching or manifesting, if you will, is the convergence of retail media in CTV. And I think that is, I mean, from a consumer standpoint, I'm watching TV, I'm seeing an ad, just like when I'm scrolling on my phone, I want to be able to action on it. And so being able to have more precise, unique, and relevant, actionable ads within CTV, I think there's been a lot of talk and very little innovation in that space. And so from a consumer standpoint, from a marketer standpoint, I definitely would love to see that theme evolve and become more of a scalable solution.
Yeah.
And I think these two themes need to grow and evolve separately in order for them to converge together. But I'd love to see that. Well, Emmelijn, thank you so much for your time. I'm looking forward to our next conversation to see if any of these themes and predictions, how they evolve over the next year or so.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And thank you all for tuning in.